What's up, you guys? We are back for more. Yes, this week it is part two, the conclusion to our 20-year anniversary podcast. And so this one is much more on kind of the nuts and bolts of marriage, if you will. Some top takeaways and pointers and things that we've learned throughout the years that we hope will lift up your marriage and encourage you as well. So I hope you will stick around and enjoy the great Tiffany Howard and myself as we dive back in to the rest of our 20-year anniversary podcast. This is part two. It's all coming up right after this. Welcome back. This is actually part two of the 20-year anniversary edition, I guess is what I'm going to call it. But this is the When Words Don't Come Easy podcast. I'm Andy Howard, and as you can see, my wife, Tiffany Howard, is joining me. If you missed last week's, you do need to go back, and there's a lot of great fun stories and just some memories, even how we met and just some fun stories along the way. But you don't have to know that part to get something out of this episode. This episode is going to be more towards hope in marriage. It's going to be just some tips and some things that we've gone through that we hope will help you with your marriage or whatever you may be facing. Before we jump in, Tiff, you got anything you want to say on this particular episode?
Oh, I'm just excited to continue, excited to give hope. Marriage is hard. Let's start with that. Marriage is hard. And I think so many times in the world that we live in with Instagram and Facebook and, all these people earning their livings on social media, so many times we present our best selves on social media.
We call it
Everybody.
the PR firm, right? You put your good stuff out there.
Yeah. And so it makes so many times we can compare ourselves to what we're seeing on social media, and it can make us think that our marriages are failing compared to everybody else. Everybody else has it better. And I will say, even Andy and I, we try to be very transparent on social media and offer real and hope, but it can even seem like, oh, they have such a great marriage, they never struggled, where that's why we want to have this podcast today to really talk about 20 years of marriage and what it's taken to get here. And it's like, man, if we could have jumped into marriage knowing what we know today, how much better those last 20 years would have been. But you really have to grow through it. You really do.
And it's not, you're exactly right. It's not easy, but it's worth it. It's what I would encourage you with. And it's not, you do need to know up front it's not easy, but if you're committed to it, we made a vow that said, richer or poorer, sickness and health, better or worse, all the things. And I think sometimes we invite God to the wedding, but we don't always invite him to the marriage. And I would encourage you to do that. If you're looking for fulfillment from your spouse, you're going to be disappointed. Just being honest, no matter how good I'm married, and am so blessed, but no matter how good your spouse is, if you're looking for hope in your spouse, they were not created to be your hope. They were created to be your teammate. And we are a team. I tell people all the time, man, marriage, like all the great teams, you got to learn each other's strengths and weaknesses. I hear all the time like that marriage is 50-50, like 50% here and 50 here. And I disagree with that. I think it takes 100% on both sides, just pulling. And you won't always be your strongest, but I think if everybody's giving 100%, when Tiff's having a bad moment, because that's going to happen, life happens, right? And I've been very transparent with my bad moments. When I'm at a 60 or 50% or 20%, the 100% from the other helps. So it takes 100% on both sides. But I wanted to show something, Tiff, before we dive in. For those who follow me on Instagram or Facebook or social media, I threw together a little reel for the 20th anniversary. And so as I was digging for old pictures, I stumbled on something. And I'm going to show you now, hopefully, if you're watching. So
Oh,
this
oh
was
my
our
God.
wedding. Call this
Is
like a
it like
brochure
your
thing,
brochure, your wedding, what is program?
flyer program, maybe. I don't know.
The
But it
thing you give
opens
people
up.
when they walk in, they probably don't even give those anymore. It's
Do you
like,
call them a program? Is that not right? That's
really
not right.
I
Well,
don't know.
anyways, what I wanted to show you because I thought it was so cool, and after all these years, I don't even know if you can see it if you're watching home, but When Words Don't Come Easy by Andy Howard. I wrote a song for you 20 years ago now, and it's wild how prophetic that song turned out to be. I had no idea, honestly. I was wanting to write. I'm a romantic guy. I wanted to write just a romantic song, and I did mean the words. I wanted you to know that no matter what, good times, bad times, I will be there when words don't come easy. I had no idea what was right around the corner, that you would lose your sister a couple months into our relationship when we first started dating. Then after we got married, gosh, within no, it was about 5 years in, because I do remember Peyton was just about to be born. You lost your father to cancer. And then a couple of years after that, you would lose your mama, that I would lose my dad. And then 12
Peyton.
years later, I would lose my mom. And then, of course, Peyton with her diagnosis and everything that that did mentally for me, just the walk. It's been a crazy journey. There's been so many ups, so many downs. But you know what? God has been faithful through all of it. But what do you want to share right now, or what kind of hope do you want to give about the process and about everything we've kind of gone through?
Well, I think that, first I would like to open just saying if you have been through a divorce, we want you to know that we love you. And this is by no means to make you feel that we're judging you as we talk about being committed to your spouse. Jesus is so full of grace. And we also want to say if you're in an abusive marriage, we are not encouraging you to stay. We are encouraging you to seek help. So please hear that, because I think sometimes as Christians in ministry, you can hear people say the importance of staying together, and we are 100% for commitment, but not when you're in a place of potential physical harm. So please hear that. We encourage you to seek help from Christian counselors and therapists and things, and we are not those people. But for the rest of you, we just want to offer hope. I think that we said it at the beginning, for better, for worse, for richer, for poorer. People, we say that at the altar, everybody does, but it's easy to say, it's a whole lot harder to live out.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things that Andy and I committed to from the beginning, I'm just thankful we were modeled. We had great role models of marriage. Our parents were committed to one another. They exemplified a Christian marriage, and that makes such a difference. And I do want to say, just to know that what we are living out, we fight every day for our marriage, for ourselves, but also for our children, because we know that they are going to do what we do. And I want them to marry a man as good as Andy. And so we fight for our marriage, for what we are literally leaving the next generation and the generation after that. And we live in a world where marriage is so easily thrown away, as much as you throw away a spouse. And we have a generation of people that won't marry anymore because they were modeled bad marriages. And I'm determined in our legacy that we are changing that. And Andy and I made that decision, before we got married, that we would make that vow and we would mean it forever. And I will say that through 20 years, there have been times where, I will not lie, it would have been so much easier to walk away, so much easier. And I think that I have to always remind myself, and sometimes in the heat of the moments when it's hard, and we'll share some of that with you, it's a lot harder to walk that out in those moments. It's easy to say it in the good times. But I have to remind myself that marriage is to be a representation of Christ and his bride, Christ in the church. And when I think about how many times I have failed the Lord, and how many times I've sinned, and how many times he should have left me, like how many times I've sinned and asked for forgiveness and then went and done it again and broke his heart over and over and over and over, yet he's never left me. And that is what the depiction of marriage is supposed to be, of Christ and his church. And so when Andy and I disagree, or we've had really hard times, I have to think, like, Jesus won't leave me. I can't leave him, and I have to fight. And I know it's very easy in marriage to blame your spouse. There's many a times that I would just super transparent love. And I'm like, God, if you just fix Andy, like if you just fix Andy. And reality is Lord saying,
He's
no,
still trying to fix me.
no, he's trying to fix me.
But no, you're exactly right. If we focus on ourselves and what we can control in our relationship with God, you can't help but bleeds over. It really does. And the closer you are to God, the closer you are at modeling that, uh, inspires the other. So, like for so many people who may say, "Well, I want my husband to do this," like I wish he were, maybe he doesn't like to go to church, or maybe he doesn't have a relationship with God, the kind that you want him to. Well, you could either nag on him and beat him over the head about, let you need to go to church and you need, or you can just level up your faith. And I'm not saying you don't. Some people, so please hear our heart with you. So it's not that we're doing this from a judgmental standpoint, but just from what's worked for us throughout the years is when I see Tiff go after God more, uh, through prayer, through her prayer life, through her Bible study time, inspires me to do more. And that's the same through everything. If you're even in your health and all the things, you could either just try to nag and say all the things you want them to do, or usually as you level up, the other person follows. They do, they see what you do. All right, as far as the kids, last thing real quick, you were talking about them, but I think so much more is caught than taught. And I've heard that said so many times before too. So you can teach them all the right things with your mouth, but not lead them with your actions. And so they are watching you like little sponges. So when you say stuff like you want your daughters, honey, to have a godly husband, that makes me want to live the my role is so much more important looking, I don't know, 20, 30 years from now, let's say a long time from now.
Long time.
Because I want them to have high standards in what they want in their husband, how they want to be treated, how they want to be loved, how they want to be respected, all the things. So it is so much more caught than taught. So you
Yeah, and
can't
I look
just
at
speak it.
well, I look at Andy and think, you are so much like my dad. My dad was like my hero and he was my best friend. And I saw so many qualities in you that I saw in my dad. And so, in the same, like when our sons are looking for wives, they're going to model that after what they see in you women and vice versa. We have had so many hards. I mean, so many, not only hards with loss and, you know, being broke. We've had so many fights over money. We know money is one of the number one fights in marriage. And we've had so many fights over that and just blaming each other and so much of it done out of pain. And communication, we'll say, is the number one thing I think in
Oh,
marriage,
yeah.
communication and tone. And I know Andy's going to talk on that. But I think that one of the things, and I pray this every morning, even this morning as I was going to Orange Theory, I have it actually on my girls' mirror in their bathroom, their mirror in their bedroom. And I pray it to myself every morning, Lord, let me have the fruits of the Spirit. Help every interaction with my spouse, with my children, with the people I encounter. Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, gentleness, self-control. If we will have those things in our marriage, even when our spouse isn't doing those back to us, because Andy and I, there are times I know I'm not gentle with him, but he is gentle back to me. And he can diffuse a situation so fast because I am very much a fighter. I will let it level up quickly, but with his gentle words and with his love, he can squash any of that. And so I always pray, like, Lord, let me have those things. Even if you have a spouse who's not serving Jesus, we are to be Jesus to the world, including our unsaved spouse.
Yeah.
It's hard. It's why Jesus encourages us to be equally yoked from the beginning. But sometimes when we're not, God is still such a God of restoration that he
Yeah.
can change your spouse through your actions.
You're exactly right. And you're being too kind to me. And I thank you for that. You really are. I'm not always perfect, obviously, uh, but I do my best. You're exactly right on communication. I think it's massive. And for us fellas, I'm speaking for the dudes. To all you ladies, this is free. So you're going to love this, right? Just, we are very simple, but we need help. Like, we need to know what you're thinking. We need to know what you need. And so many times we just expect our spouse, and sometimes I'm not letting you off the hook either, fellas. Sometimes you have to work for it. You need to work and try to figure out, do your part as well. But I think the communication thing is that we just expect our spouse to know that I'm having a bad day, or
I
that
need
this happened or that happened. And it might not even be their fault. But then because you come in stressed, already irritated, then the dude starts thinking, "Oh my goodness, what did I do today?" And so you're like, "Oh, what? Oh, it might have been this. Did I say that? And did I forget the trash? Was today trash? No." And you start going through all these things, and then you've already created all these stories before it even happens. And it escalates quickly when it may not have had anything to do with them. Could have been, you know what, my boss was a jerk today, or this happened today, or I'm just not feeling well today, whatever it is. So communication is so huge. If you would, and here's another one, how you communicate is huge. So
Andy,
tone,
listen, Andy always says to me, tone, tone, tone.
tone, tone is important. It is, you can be right. No, you can be wrong at the top of your lungs, right? Is that
No,
right? You can be right, but wrong at the top of your lungs, something like that. There's a saying out there, I've probably just butchered it, but you can be right. Like, say Tiff is right about whatever it is, but if she says it in a very harsh way,
it's
that
wrong.
then makes her wrong, right?
Tone matters.
So,
Tone matters.
yeah, tone matters. And so communication matters. And if you look at the book, and I always want to plug the book because I do believe I put my blood, sweat, and tears into it so that it could help people and bring hope. But the very last chapter is kind of the title chapter of the book, When Words Don't Come Easy. And we talk about the need to be right. And I think that is a huge one in marriages and pretty much everything you face, any kind of communication with anyone, any teammate, any future partner, a business partner, whatever, the need to be right. Because for some reason, we hold on to this need to be right, which means we're not even willing to let it go that I have to be right about it. Is it really worth? So you have to pick and choose. Is it worth?
And know that it's not easy. Like even
No.
20 years in, I mean, even yesterday, I didn't even tell you this, but in the
Oh
car,
no. What did I do?
no, I don't remember. It wasn't anything you did. He said something, and I
Uh-oh.
don't even remember. It was a great conversation. We were just talking. I don't even know what it was about, but
Now
he
you
said
got me in my
something.
head.
No, it wasn't. That's obviously wasn't a big deal because I don't remember. But in my mind, I was like, "Oh, that isn't right." Like I wanted to come back and say, "Oh, da da da." Literally, I had to talk myself off the ledge because I'm like, "Is this worth it?" I don't have to be right. Like I desire peace and love and joy, all those things over being right. Even though in the moment I wanted to be right, because
Yeah.
I think we all it's human
That's
nature.
natural.
Yeah.
It's you all want that. We want that. I want that all the time. I want to
But
be
at the end
right.
of
I want to be
the day,
right. But
it's knowing what hill's worth dying on. And most of the
yes.
hills that we die on are not worth dying on. And it's just having grace with one another. You know, my friend Megan, some of you that are do what we do for a living, know Megan Valentine, and she had shared a Instagram kind of some slides with me. It was actually about forgiveness, but it works in forgiveness and grace. And it says when you don't extend forgiveness or grace, you don't understand the forgiveness and grace that was extended to you
Wow.
by Christ. And I think that in marriage, that's one of the biggest things is you're going to have to extend grace and forgive over and over and over and over again. Your spouse will never be Jesus. They will never be perfect. We're always striving. Jesus tells us, be perfect because I am, be holy because I am. But we're always going to be striving. But I think that it's having grace and putting each other first. That's one thing I'd really like to talk about for a minute because I think that the longer you're married, you know, when you get married at first before you have kids, it's easy to put each other first. That's all you got. Like it's not hard. But especially for you mamas out there, once you have children, because they are flesh and blood, and we hold such a high responsibility in raising them, it's very easy for us as women to put our children first.
Yeah.
And I will say that in the last, probably really 10 years of marriage, once the twins are born, because for Peyton, it was us against the world with Peyton, me and
Yeah.
Andy.
And she didn't have the same needs or desires. No, she had a lot of needs, physical needs, but she didn't have like the same needs the twins have. Like the twins crave relationship. And, Peyton, she loves us and she loves our relationship and the love and all that stuff. But she, for the most part, doesn't
Doesn't ask
do a
for it,
lot. She
beg
doesn't
for
have,
it.
yeah, need those things. Like the twins need our time. They need the investment and constant, stuff. Constant take me here, take me there. But I did want to throw out a book. And so if you don't have this, it's called Love and Respect. And it's Dr. Emerson, and I'm probably going to butcher the last name. I might just spell it. It's Eggerichs. I guess Eggerichs, maybe Eggerichs.
No
But it's
idea.
such a good book. I remember reading that some 10, 15 years ago, maybe not that long, but it's been a while. And it talks about men. We need respect. That's how we feel loved. We by being respected. It's just a thing, right? Men, you will see it's a sign of respect. Like if a dude, I saw someone talking about this on Instagram earlier, some kind of short video reel. When a dude sees another dude, and if he knows him, he will give him the head nod. It's like, what's up? It's just a sign of respect. And if he doesn't know them yet, he kind of nods his head, but it's nodded down. It's a up. It's not a down. It's still a sign of respect. And so men are we work off respect. And so while women need love. And so and how do they feel loved? And it goes throughout. This book is so good. It goes through all that.
And since you're giving tips, I will say a couple podcasts that I love that I listen to all the time. Focus on the Family actually is one of my favorite podcasts. They have a marriage and a parenting podcast. And I love it because they're like less than 10 minutes a day and they just give such great tips. And then I also love there's one called Famous at Home. It's a great podcast. And then The Naked Marriage. It's a wonderful podcast too. I think that with marriage, one of the biggest things is one, putting your spouse first. And that's not easy to do. But guys, our children, moms, like I have to remind myself, my job is to raise them to be good humans. And more than anything, my main objective is that they love Jesus and go to him for everything. Yeah. But I have 18 years with them. And then my job is to release them, to do what God has called them to do. But you're going to be with your spouse forever. And we see so many people get divorced when their children leave the nest because they don't even know who their spouse is anymore.
It's almost like starting over if you lose that relationship. So you have to keep that. And so a couple more tips. One, we try to almost always have a date night weekly. We try to date our spouse. I know it sounds wild. Talk about it in the book as well. It's about that pursuit. If you quit pursuing your spouse will find the pursuit somewhere else. I'm not saying that means they're going to go cheat or not. No, it's just a natural feel of that void. Like somebody will come along and say, "Oh, you look nice today," and then that's planted in there. Oh, wow, someone noticed that I look nice today. Wow, so cool. It's that pursuit. So, and you don't want to get to the end of the, and it doesn't have to be 18 years. I'm not one of those dads who's, "Oh, you're 18, you're out of here."
I want him to be with me forever.
We have one that may be here till she's 96, and that's totally fine. That's totally fine. Anyways, but say you get to the end of that, right? Do you have to reintroduce yourself? And by then it is very hard. So just constantly date your spouse. And the other thing I wanted to say, and I may let you jump in. Yes, because I lost it.
Well, for dating your spouse, I do want to encourage you too, because it's very easy for us to have excuses in that. One, we don't have the money. We hear that a lot, and we used to be that way. And I can say that you can find ways to do it that don't cost
money. There are 100 things you can watch a TV show together. And I'm not saying that's a cop out. Like don't just not talk or communicate, but find something you both love to do. Go on a walk after dinner. That's
go to
free.
The park, have a picnic. I mean, there's books, y'all.
Sit
there's
on a bench.
Like hundreds of date ideas.
Go to Starbucks and just grab a $2 coffee. It don't have to be a $30 day or a $100 steak or anything like that. Just making an effort. Here's what the cool thing is, fellas. I talked about for the ladies earlier. This is a tip for you guys, for however many male listeners I have out there. Women just love effort. They love the effort. They don't always care about the execution of the effort. They see you trying, they're going to meet you halfway or even say, "Okay, honey, let me help you on this date because you're sucking at it." So they just like the effort, and that means a lot. The other thing that I was thinking that I forgot, and I'll come right back to you, Tiff. I'm not trying to hog this, but I just want you to know it's so important for dudes. When I was talking about respect, don't ever talk about your spouse, one guy or girl. I'm just saying, don't talk bad about your spouse, especially publicly. For us dudes, you will, I don't want to say kill the relationship. That may be too far, but it hurts. It causes so much damage. Even if you're just with your girlfriends, like this is this girl night. It's like, "Let me tell you about what my husband did." That's my funny girl voice.
That's your back east Texas woods talk.
"Let me tell you what he done did."
I don't think any of us do that.
Well, maybe not, but sometimes there are ladies who feel comfortable putting their just because of what we did in marriage ministry for years. We heard it that they feel comfortable with their girlfriends saying all the. And I know that you should have a trusted friend that you can vent. I'm not saying you can never vent, but you have to know who you can trust because it does cause damage. So likewise, the same tone, if you're at a group dinner with a bunch of people and you say, my husband mows the yard better. I mean, our yard looks better than any home on the street or something like I don't
It's
know what he does.
I don't know if that one's a good one, but
Well, I don't do our yard. I'm just saying, but if someone, there are a lot of men who do yards. I'm just saying, whatever it is that he does, he'll just walk around like a peacock, strutting around for a week because, oh, my wife was proud of me. So it goes a long ways.
it does, absolutely. And I was going to say that too. Don't speak ill of your spouse. And just remember your friends and your family, they don't have the grace and the love for your spouse the way you do. And they will always see them through those eyes, those glasses. So I definitely encourage that. And you can find, listen, we're all about Christian therapy and counseling. We got
Yes.
counselors, we have marriage life coaches that help us. So we're all for that. But I did want to say too, about time really quick, even back to dates or anything, spending time with your spouse every day for 5 minutes. Y'all, it doesn't even have to be long. Like if Andy and I could just sit down, normally we'll have dinner, family dinners, and then we kick our kids out and we just sit there for 15, 20 minutes and talk. And that is some of my favorite time of the day. It's a way we can connect without spending money. But that is so important because it's easy when you're busy to be two ships passing in the night and you're never really communicating, but you're just kind of co-parenting. And so I encourage you in that. And we can say, well, our kids have games and they have sports and I don't have time for a date and I don't have time for whatever. But it's kind of like people say, show me your checkbook, I'll know what you care about. It's the same with your time. Show me where you spend your time and I'll know where you care about. And we know whatever we find value in, we will make a priority. And if it's our marriage, then we will find time for one another. And I did want to share too about love languages. I think this is huge in marriage. So there's a book called The Five Love Languages. A lot of people know about it, but it really talks about how we each feel loved in different ways. And early on in marriage, Andy and I took the love language test to find out what our love languages were. And it's so important to know that because generally whatever your love language is what you give to somebody.
All back to the communication thing you're talking about, because you may be trying to tell them you love them with all your heart, but yet if you're not reaching what she's about to tell you, they don't feel the love. So carry on. Yeah.
So it's kind of like I will say, so my love language is acts of service. And it's like number one, like some people are like kind of high in a lot of them. Like nothing matters to me like acts of service. And so early on, remember, Andy's a romantic. That's not my love language. So like if he would buy me a gift, like it's nice, don't get me wrong, but it's not how I see, it's not how I'm shown love. But if Andy will wash the dishes or he'll go get my car gassed up or detail the car, or he'll do anything like that, I feel so loved because as a mom, I get stressed because I have so much to accomplish. And I feel so loved when he will do those things. Whereas Andy loves, I mean, Andy's kind of
I got
scores
all five of them. I think I'm pretty much. You can do all five love languages. There's one
well,
I definitely
not
don't
as much
want. But
acts of service, but he
yeah, I
loves
don't care about
physical
acts of
touch, man.
service. Yeah,
Yeah, but he loves gifts.
I love
He loves
physical
words of
touch. Did we say that
affirmation.
one?
Yep,
Words of
words of affirmation.
affirmation,
Yeah. So what
gifts.
makes it easy on me though, because I just got to do like I can do,
If she can hit 80% of them, we're good.
we're good. But knowing your spouse's love language is so huge. And actually, I would say we don't got time to go into this, but I actually love to know my friends' love languages and the people that I work with because I want to make them feel loved and valued through their love language. So that's huge. And oh, the last thing I want to share as we go, and I know you're going to close out, but I want to encourage there's a ministry that's all over the United States. It's
This is
actually
what I
another,
was going to close out
oh,
with. So
well,
it's
you want to take
perfect. So
it.
carry on. You're
Well,
great.
it's something that we actually led at our church. When our twins were baby carriers, we went to, it's called Reengage, a marriage ministry. We went with some friends of ours that wanted to work on their marriage. And we said, hey, we'll go with you to support you, having no idea the value we would get out of it. In fact,
Yeah.
such value that we ended up leading at our church for 2 years, but it's all over the United States. And it's not just, most people think if we say this, it's for bad marriages. This is for
Oh, they
people who want
say
to
it
get
all the
better.
time in the commercial, whether your marriage is a 1 or a 9, like on a scale 1 to 10 or whatever. Like whether you have if you are in need of help, they can help you for sure. Or if you just want a better marriage. And ours, we just thought we were going to support some other friends of ours at the time, but
But it
we didn't
changed our
have
marriage.
any idea. We're like, we're good. But it kind of, you hear the term like fillets you wide open. You hear that a lot. This will fillet like your marriage wide open, all the things that you need help with.
And it
But
helps because so many times we don't know what we don't know. And so sometimes we don't know what we're missing in marriage. And a lot of times good is good, but the enemy of great is good. And I don't want a good marriage. I want a great marriage.
Yeah.
And Reengage, we've actually attended it probably 4 times. That's how much we love it. And I will tell you, even if it's not at the church you're a part of, Reengage is free. And you do not have to attend the church that you go to for the marriage ministry. You can find it, the website.
Yes, I do. I was going to say, so go to reengage, reengage.org, reengage.org. So that's the main one, which is in Watermark in Dallas. But if you look on reengage.org, check it out. There, you can put in your zip code. No matter where you're at in the US, chances are somebody. So this church is so cool. They, for free, all you have to do, most of these churches, is attend their conference and learn how to do it right, because they want to make sure you're doing it from a biblical standpoint. And then they pay for the books, which are like $10 a piece, and they will let anybody do this. Their main goal is helping marriages. There's been a lot of churches that's like, oh, this is ours, we're not going to share. But they were like, yes, let's share. So this ministry is helping so many people, and not only in the US, but all around the world. It's so cool that there are places outside of the US even doing this. So go to reengage.org, put in your zip, and it can help you.
And just know too, if you are someone who says, oh, my spouse won't go, we used to hear all the time women who would, tell us they wanted to go, but their spouse wouldn't go. I do want you to know that the first half of the ministry, you actually can go alone. There does become a point down the road that to get in a closed group, your spouse has to be there. But I will tell you, so many women would come to Reengage for that first hour and listen to the testimonies and hear the worship. And they would do that over and over and over again. And I can't tell you how many times we watched God show up and their spouses join them. I mean, it completely changed their marriage. So your faithfulness to say, hey, even if you won't go, I will go. Because I know for some men, they think it's weird. I get it. But once they go, they'll love it. But you being faithful hopefully will encourage them to join you. So don't wait on them.
Something special about hearing testimonies, because there are going to be some testimonies that were in dire need of help. And then there are going to be some that were like, oh, we had a pretty good marriage, but we just needed to fine tune some stuff. So no matter where you're at, you're going to find someone who you can relate to, and you're going to learn from them. So any closing thoughts as we wrap this one up?
Just have grace for one another. This is hard. It won't get easy. I'm going to just tell you that it will never get easy.
It will get easier. If it does, that's a red flag.
Yeah. It
no, I'm serious. Like when you quit investing in your marriage and you quit working hard, that means you need to re-engage or you need to talk to somebody. Marriage is hard. It does take work. It's not, if it's easy, there is something wrong. It means you don't have a good relationship, but it means you're probably taking it too easy if you feel like it's easy.
And I would say in closing that, we believe with every fiber of our being that the enemy is here in this day and age to attack the family, to start with marriages, in turn attack our children. So every morning I spend time literally praying over our marriage and our family, because I know that the enemy is coming to still kill and destroy. And if he can destroy families, and he's done it. I mean, if we look at what's happening in our world, he has done it. And we see the state of our children today in this culture, we can really directly root it back to so many marriages being destroyed. And so the enemy knows. So many times we say, oh, if I get divorced, it'll be better for my kids. That is incredibly rare. I only believe that happens when there's physical abuse or, very strong things. So many children are destroyed through divorce. And please hear me, if you've already been there, we are not here to judge you. We're not telling you need to fix it. God is such a God of restoration and love, and he can change our wrongs. He's done it for me so many times. But we need to know that we are not wrestling against flesh and blood, but against the principalities of darkness. The enemy is here to destroy our marriages, and we can let it happen because we allow really dumb things sometimes, like us wanting to be right, or us not putting each other first, or us not communicating. We can allow the enemy to win, or we can know who we're fighting against and say that we are committed to one another for the rest of our lives.
It's good. And so with that said, we're going to wrap this one up. I thank you so much for joining us. Please know everything was said with love to help and to bring hope. That's what this podcast is about, to bring hope in every area we can. And marriage is one of those big staples for Tiff and I, and even for the book. So this When Words Don't Come Easy podcast will always be about hope. And from time to time, you will hear from somebody on marriage, because it is that important to us. So we love you guys. Thanks for tuning in. And as always, we will see you next time. God bless. Wow. All right. We are done. We are done with the 2-part 20th anniversary podcast. I hope you had as much fun with that as we did. Tiff is such an amazing, amazing partner and wife. I just love her so much, and always glad to do life with her and to do podcast with her anytime she can jump on. So my prayer is that will be uplifting for your marriage, and that there is something that you can take and apply to your marriage today, wherever you're at on your journey. That's what this podcast is all about, bringing hope. So again, thank you for joining us. If you haven't got the book yet, it's a book of hope for you when words don't come easy. You can get it at andyhoward.com. It's available also on Amazon, Audible, and Kindle. And please leave a 5-star review. It helps get the book into more hands and more people seeing it. And that's what my prayer is, that more people will get a hold of this book. So thanks again for taking the time to listen. We appreciate you so much. God bless everybody.